Anyone reading your document should clearly understand what was done, who did it, and when. Imagine you perform an activity today, and next month an auditor comes and you are on leave. So only your records speak for you. That's the GDP. So let's talk about some general principles of the good documentation principles, good documentation practices. These are not the complicated rules. Rather, these are very simple daily habits, behaviors that makes the documentation trustworthy. So, I mean, it decides whether an auditor trusts your records or not. So, like in production areas, in pharmaceutical company, production staff usually records the activity with permanent ink. Preferably, they are using, I mean, blue ink. And sometimes, if an auditor needs a microscope to read your handwriting, so it's actually a problem. So, documentation must be clear and written in permanent ink. Why? Because fading ink or using pencils or some erasable ink, the data can be disappear. And disappearing data means lost integrity. So these are some more general principles like the quality assurance staff in the pharmaceutical companies. Usually they record their data with the green ball pen in order to differentiate the record for between the production and the QA staff. Sometimes leaving the blank spaces, if you have seen in the GMP documentation. So how you have to mention the NA in the blank spaces, and photocopies or scans must be clearly identified and controls, and the original copies must be retained unless otherwise it is approved by the QA. These are some pictorials as I mentioned in the earlier slides. Do not use pencils, markers, only use the green or blue ball pen. Just like this one, we have to mention the NA and do sign and date if you find any blank space in the document. Now let's talk about correction. Mistakes are usually happen as we are human, but how we correct the mistake, it shows our integrity. Like one is try through reason, signature, and date. So as you have seen in this particular image, the valid and invalid, what's the difference between this? The wrong entry in the left side, you cannot see the wrong entry, but for in the right side, you can see the wrong entry, and the person has mark a line over it and write the correct entry under that, and he signed, he dated, and mentioned the reason. So this is the clear picture how we are correcting an error. So these may look like small details, but these small habits decides whether the documentation becomes evidence and liabilities. Do's and don'ts. The most critical principle is record in real time, not later, and not from the memory. For example, if analysts perform test at 10 a.m. in the morning and records the results at 5 p.m. in the evening from the memory, so this is not the good documentation practices. This is just like storytelling to your friend or something else. Auditor don't accept the stories; they accept records with real time. So remember, every record must tell us who did what when, and why. Why GDP matter? This is one of the most important slide of this session. Poor documentation does not stay on paper. It becomes badge rejection, product recalls, warning letters, and worse is the patient safety risk. The common, patient safety risk usually from the poor documentation, wrong strength or wrong dose mentioned on the label, or any contaminated product. So poor documentation does not just create the bad paperwork, it creates the bad decisions, and that bad decisions create the quality failure. Pharmaceutical quality depends on controlled process, and documentation is how we prove those controls existed. So the real scenario is, for example, mixing time recorded incorrectly, temperature deviation not documented, IPC records not completed, incomplete, you can say that. So in one inspection, product manufacturing was technically perfect, but the cleaning record were incomplete. So the inspector said, I cannot confirm the equipment was clean. So the badge was rejected, not because it was contaminated, but because it could not be proven as clean. That is why the GDP mattered. Now let's connect GDP to big concept, data integrity. But before that, uh, we have to see what is data. Data is simply any record, information generated during an activity, or, or obtained from the raw data. And what is raw data? Raw data is the original record, the first and original record where the data is created. It is the source evidence of the activity, like original chromatogram files from the HPLC is the raw data. While data could be any numbers, printouts, or any graph, you can say that. Integrity. Integrity means being honest and complete. When we talk about integrity, we ask, is this information genuine and unchanged? Now, regulatory definitions of data integrity. All the guidelines, whether it is FDA, WHO, PACE, or MHRA, they all say the same thing. Data must be complete, consistent, accurate. If any of these is missing, trust is lost. GDP versus data integrity. So our key story is data integrity, which is our main goal. But GDP is the tool. No GDP, no data integrity. Poor GDP, automatic data integrity failure. GDP is everyone's responsibility. Many people think GDP are the only job for QA persons. But let me be very clear. GDP is not the department. GDP is a culture. If a production operator writes a log record incorrectly, this is the GDP issue. And if the QC analyst delays recording results, that's also a GDP issue. And similarly, if a supervisor signs without verifying the data, that's also a GDP issue. So, in reality, every person who touches the data is the guardian of the data integrity. Auditors' mindset. Basically, auditors don't start by doubting during inspection or audits. They start by asking some silent questions. I mean, can I trust this data? Was it real time? Can I recreate this activity? Could this data be manipulated or not? So these are the some silent questions auditors look for in the data. So I mean, if your records answer these questions, so the audit becomes very easy. The next one is the small GDP mistakes, which can lead to the big regulatory observations like backdating, missing dates, overwriting, correction, fluids usage. All these look small, but for regulators, they scream. So the data cannot be trusted in this way. In one inspection, a single backdated entry triggered a full site data integrity audit. This is the data life cycle. Data has a life cycle journey. It is created, it is processed, it is reviewed, reported, stored, shared, archived. But data integrity must be protected at every step. One weak line breaks the change. If the data is correct during testing, but lost during the storage, so the integrity is broken. Now let's move to the Alcoa principles. To keep the data trustworthy, regulators created Alcoa, and these are five simple but powerful principles. It is the foundation of data integrity. It tells us how data should look like and either it is a trustworthy or not. So, as you are seeing this, Alcoa, A for attributable. Attributable means we must know who generated the data, who performed the action, and when. If a test results has no signature, I mean, no analyst name, no signature, so the first question asked by the auditor is who did this? If we cannot answer, the data already weak. The next element is legible. L for legible means the data should be readable and understandable, not just for today, but years and years. If uh, handwriting is unclear and an auditor misleads a value, so the data fails legibility. The next one is C for contemporaneous. Contemporaneous means recording data at the time of activity is performed, not later. For example, if we record an activity in the evening, but the testing has been done in the morning, then it's a violation of GDP and Alcoa principle. So the contemporaneous means record the activity, record your data at the time of activity or work is performed. O, O for original. Original means first capture of the data or first recorded data. That is the raw data. For example, for HPLC, if we talk about the HPLC, the electronic chromatogram file is the original data, not its the print out form reports. And for accurate, accurate means the data recorded exactly matches the actual observation. For example, if analyst weigh some sample and the balance shows 25.68 gram on the weighing balance, but he records the weight 25.6, 25.7 gram. He rounds off the data. So this is inaccurate. The accurate is 25.68 exactly matches the value. The Alcoa history and definition. Basically, the Alcoa word is invented by Stan W. Wolin, and he was the inspector of US FDA. He derived this name Alcoa from the aluminium manufacturing company Alcoa Corporation. So, to recognize this Alcoa, the company name is Alcoa Corporation. So, as we have seen the in previous slides, these are some pictorials and some details about the attributable, who performed the data and who generated this data, like you have seen in the examples, a correction record as well, who made the correction in this. Similarly, legible. Legible means the data should be easy to understand. As you have seen in this particular image, the correct value is 29, but the written value has been like 24, 27, or 29. So this is 29. The data should be legible and understandable. C for contemporaneous. So record the activity. Record, just you have seen in this, the time is showing is 14:45 hours, but it was recorded 5 minutes later. So the real time data should be mentioned and recorded in the GMP documentation. Data should never be backdated. This is original. This is the primary and source data, and copy of the original or source document. It is not then original document. Accurate, as we have covered the example of sample weighing balance 25.7. Now let's move forward. Alcoa Plus. Basically, Alcoa works well for paper-based system, but as pharma and other healthcare set a move towards the electronic system, so the regulators realized something was missing. So Alcoa was expanded, and Alcoa Plus aids for more principles to ensure data remains reliable throughout its life cycle, not just at the time of recording. And what are these for? Complete, consistent, enduring, available. Complete. Complete means all data must be present. Either it is the failed test report, either it is a past report. So the data must be complete. And consistent means data follows a logical order and time sequence. If a sample preparation time is recorded after the analysis, so the data timeline does not make sense. Similarly, the manufacturing process and manufacturing process, then the compression, then the coating stage, then blistering or filling of the bottle or the packing stage. So all these follows the chronicle logical orders. And if the data is being recorded later on, so it not be like consistent, you can say that. Similarly, for enduring means the data must be recorded on durable media, and it must be protected from the loss. For example, if we have saved some data in our Excel files on the desktop or laptop PC system, but we do not have the backup of that particular data. So means we do not meeting the enduring requirement. And next one is the available. Available means the data must be accessible whenever required, especially during inspection and audit. If the raw data, for example, if the raw data exists but cannot be retrieved during the during audit or inspection, then a regulator assume that it does not exist. Alcoa plus principles. Uh, as we have seen in Alcoa and Alcoa plus. So what is Alcoa plus plus? With increasing demand, and you can say that automation, complex digital systems. So even Alcoa plus are not, you can say that enough. So Alcoa plus plus, that is one more principle with added in Alcoa plus, which is called traceable. It focuses on how system controls and culture protect the data. I mean, data is traceable, transparent, and trusted throughout the organization. So this is the whole Alcoa, Alcoa Plus, and Alcoa Plus Plus. Audit trail. In electronic system, audit trail is just like a CCTV camera for data. So it records who changed what, when, and why. If HPLC data is reprocessed without any justification, then audit trail exposes it. So this is furthermore about the audit trail. Now let's see some case scenario. If an activity performed at 10 a.m. in the morning but data recorded at 1 p.m., supervisors signed the next day and correction without justification. How many GDP issues you find here in this case? Can anyone tell? Hello? Hello? Hello all? Yes, in this case, basically someone has recorded the activity in the morning 10 a.m., but the data recorded at 1 p.m. The first GDP issue is that the real time data is not being followed. Second is supervisor signed next day. So this is also a GDP issue. Supervisor has to check almost the data or the complete data. He has to review all the critical parameters, all the sections, all the data. So the sign he signed the next day. Similarly, the day three corrections without justification. This is another GDP violations, as we have seen in earlier slides, how we have to correct the data. Now let's move with the case scenario. Analysts recorded HPLC results after analysis, and the original chromatogram is also missing, but data reprocessed without the justification. So what will be the outcome of this? The outcome of this, the data integrity observation, batch rejection, and also the regulatory warning. So the GDP golden rules write for the auditors, not for yourself. Record as if you won't be there tomorrow. If it feels wrong, it is wrong. So final the key takeaway message. Good documentation does not slow work, it protects the work. And quality is not tested in the lab, it is proven in the records. Strong documentation protects your work, your organization, and ultimately the patient. So, documentation is your professional signature. Protect it. Thank you. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Dr. Salman, for the insightful presentation on bridging the gap between compliance and practice to our audience of QA, QC, and regulatory professionals. We hope these case scenarios and takeaways help you in your daily work. Thank you for your participation. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Marva.
Thank
If
you.
anyone has some question, then we can take it.
Anyone have any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your
Thank you so
time
much.
and attention.
Thank you so much. Sarah is asking about what is the next session, Dr. Salman. But actually, today's webinar will be also the one who representing what we said today. Next session will be another webinar. Just follow our page and you will be updated.
Thank you. Thank you again.